Alright, so we now have our normal runs. We're gonna go ahead and reset and set this game for hard mode difficulty. This one, like the other ones, is pretty much gonna be the same thing, except we're gonna have more enemies, more enemy fire, and more lag, which is not very good in a speedrun setting, unfortunately. But sometimes you gotta take what you're given, unfortunately. Alright. Hopefully that'll be my last swig of water for right now. Alright, time starts in 3, 2, 1, go. Of course, this is Mercs, released for the Sega Genesis and Master System in 1991. And of course, this is the official sequel to Commando from 1995, or around the 1980s. Mid-80s, I should say. And of course, our goal is to rescue the President of the United States, the former President, I should say, and put an end to this terrorist group that's taken over a fictional South African country. So we're going to be taking on the aircraft carrier. Okay, normally he's usually stays in one place, but he moved around since I didn't put my character in correct position. But still, we got through that pretty quickly. But anyway, we're going to see a lot more enemy fire and more enemies, so don't be surprised if we see a lot of lag coming up. And the first time I ran this game offline, I did take 2 deaths, so don't be surprised if we see plenty of deaths and continues going into this. Alright, we got our Jeep. So let's pick up our power-ups. Ow, that was a bad turn. Now in the arcade version, you're actually able to you are able to sometimes despawn the tanks, but not all of them. But anyway, we managed to get through that without getting hit by the missiles, which is pretty good. All things considering, because of my sorry rotten luck. Alright, so we're coming up to the tank boss, so we'll be in the middle. We can start opening fire once it does. Alright, we did it. We got through the tank boss pretty quickly. Not bad at all, despite all the enemy fire that we're dealing with. Alright, so coming up next is the Harrier ship. And we gotta get through that one pretty quickly, so we're going into the dockyards for that. Alright, so we're gonna pick up these power-ups, ignore these enemies. And unfortunately we got hit by the missiles, unfortunately, which is bad on me, unfortunately. Unfortunately, the turrets fire off more faster in the harder difficulty as opposed to the easy and normal difficulties, unfortunately. Alright, we got through the turret. Yeah, as you can definitely tell, we need the rocket launcher here. Man, as you can definitely see, we have tons of enemies coming at us. That's fine, we'll have to take it to death anyway. We're about almost out of health, unfortunately. Alright, we gotta get rid of all the mega crashes so that it doesn't hold us up while the game's counting down the score accumulation. But yeah. Don't be surprised if we have to take 2 or 3 continues on hard, because, like I said before, I did my first speedrun offline without a timer, so just to get a general idea of how these modes play. So this is more or less my first attempt at this run, but if I want to make sure I have incentives, I gotta have incentives, right? Unfortunately, we're going to be dealing with some frogmen. Luckily, this will keep most of them out of our range. That doesn't mean they'll surface whenever they so please. As you can definitely tell, hard mode is where So loads of enemies are going to be opening fire on us. And as you can definitely tell, there's tons of enemies coming at us in all directions. Alright, we made it out of there. Alright, so just gotta deal with all these enemies. Man, they just don't let up here. Alright, we got through that. Good. Sorry for being a bit quiet there. I just had to focus on the timing of the shots and mega crashes. We definitely don't want to be getting hit with the flamethrower during that attack. Alright, so we made it through Mission 4. Mission 5 is going to probably be a different story altogether. Alright, we're going to use the same method we did for the last one. Then the Mega Crash so we can get some additional vulnerability. I gotta say, putting your tank right near enemies is pretty good. Wow, the tank lives before it even gets destroyed. Alright, we want to make sure we don't didn't break the second box because that one has the flamethrower, which we do not want being released. Now, like I said before, we gotta destroy the tank first before we're allowed to leave. Wow, Nova Super Launchers? Nice. I'll gladly take that. Alright, so now we gotta be on the lookout for missile fire. Of course, they're gonna be pretty random. Technically, we do not want them coming down where our character is, so we're staying on that side, be on the safe side. So anyway, we're coming up to the supply train again. Same rules apply, destroy the turrets. Now, of course, the enemies, the bosses don't have any additional damage. One of the interesting things about playing the arcade version and the Japanese version is that they take out more shots to bring down than they do in the world version of that game, or US version. Apparently, Mancore 5 tried it out, and he kind of agreed with me about the about my suspicions about them taking more damage than normal. So anyway, we got the supply train. It's got those flamethrowers to nail us with. So we're gonna try to get them to trigger those flamethrowers early. Ah, crud. We have one mega crash left and we didn't use that. That's fine. At least we managed to survive without dying. That's more important. So anyway, that completes the supply train. We're now going into the enemy headquarters to destroy its missile launcher. And once we get through that, we'll be on our final mission. Alright, so hopefully we can avoid getting destroyed by the tanks. As you can definitely tell, we moved our character around so it wouldn't be outside of the nozzle range and therefore getting hit by the missiles. So that kept us alive and avoid taking any further damage. Alright, so same rules apply. Destroy the flamethrowers, destroy the lifts. Easy peasy. Of course, one of the things that the rocket launcher is pretty powerful for is the splash damage that occurs when it hits anything, whether it be nothing or anything. Because the splash damage really adds up the damage pretty quickly. So we're going to try to lure all these grenade shots over here so it doesn't hit our character. Power-ups. Should Should have enough Mega Crashes to make it through this part. Only 2 food items this time. Alright, we made it through that one. Alright, now going straight into this part here. That's fine. This will give us all of our Mega Crashes back, plus full health going into this next part. Just gonna blitz through this area pretty quickly. Alright, we got through that. Alright, well done. Sorry for not talking, I was just trying to focus on the fight. Alright, so we made it through mission 6. Despite that being the hard difficulty, thank goodness we didn't have to put up with any more of that. Alright, time to take out the Hercules flight thing here so we can keep the leader of the terrorists out of, from escaping the country and rescue the President of the United States. Alright, time's gonna be once everything stops. Time. 11:11, not bad. Not bad at all. Alright, we got both normal and hard mode runs ready, so we can submit these to as our incentives. Whew! Gotta say, that was pretty good. Actually, in addition to submitting the entire run, I'll probably create separate highlights for each of the normal and hard mode runs to submit to speedruns.com. So I can add my name to the growing list there. Of course, first off, they'll be exported to YouTube so that people can watch it, and then we'll submit those runs eventually. Whew, not bad at all. Not bad at all.